Theory. I am Saccora, and we are doing a very special Saccora's Game Side Chat. Now, let me go ahead and get out of here. I have chosen Fallout 4 for Saccora's Game Side Chat this time. This is going to be a new program that I am doing. It's something I've been wanting to toy around with for a while, and I'm really excited that I have a chance to do this now. With all that being said, the whole concept of Saccora's Game Side Chat is I'm going to choose a game like I have today with Fallout 4, and I'm going to choose a topic. I'm just going to sit here and play my game, and we're going to chat about the topic. I am currently watching the live stream as well, so if you guys have any comments or anything, you guys can feel free to hit me up on those, and I should hopefully be able to pay enough attention to get to them and answer you guys in the moment. But that being said, Fallout 4 is my game choice of the day because today's topic is about collectibles as investments. It's something that I've almost made this video a couple times on, and I was trying to decide how to best approach it. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in the market right now is part of it, and beyond just the weirdness in the market, there is a lot of videos I'm seeing, a lot of articles I'm seeing addressing these things, addressing some of the different games and the new sets, some things that aren't games, and I just kind of want to cover all of it, and I have a couple responses to different videos. I'm not going to really call anyone specifically out, but just give my thoughts on this stuff. And I chose Fallout 4 as our game of the day while I talk about collectibles and investments because, you know, I figured what better game than one where the world's fallen to hell and collectibles are actually something that is kind of part of the game. You got your pop vinyl figures or your like bobblehead figures that you get for your stats. They trade in bottle caps. So, you know, maybe in a future world we'll all be trading in trading cards and that'll be our only cash. But until that day, we have cash to talk about, and I want to talk about collectibles as investments. Now, I'm just going to sit here and play my game as we're here. This is just one low-level character I have on here, and I'm going to just do some fixing in my town, and we're going to talk about this. So, first up, I want to talk about Magic the Gathering. Let's start there. Now, there's a lot of different news with Magic the Gathering that has come out in just the last couple weeks even, and I know there's mixed feelings abound about Masters 25. There are a lot of people who are really excited and a lot of people who are not very excited. And there are also a lot of people who were excited and are not anymore. So I kind of wanted to dip in and talk about that. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos about this. I have been extensively watching YouTube videos on Masters 25 and just the market. It's something I've always followed long before I was making my own videos here. And let's see, one second. I want to get over to, not defense. We're going to go plant some food. Anyways, so I've seen a lot of videos about Masters 25 and people ragging on the set, people ragging on Wizards in general, and I kind of just want to address some of that. I'm going to actually hold right here on the gameplay for a second. I'll keep talking, but I'm going to just make a couple adjustments over on the other side so I'm better set to see any of the comments. Now, let me get back to my chat. I want to try not to rant too much, even though I will warn you, this video is a tangent. It is a rant. It's all meant to be a side chat while I'm playing some games. And I've seen some other people do some cool stuff like this. Some people who broadcast their entire video while playing other games. I thought I'd give it a try, especially, and I just thought maybe this would be a specific segment. Moving on to the topic of the day. Masters 25 and investing in general in collectibles. I really like Masters 25. Let me start with that. I know a lot of people are not as into Masters 25. I'm gonna get into my Pip-Boy real quick and turn off the music. Anyways, a lot of people aren't as into Masters 25, but I am, and I don't think it's a bad set by any means. I think it's a set that we all need to... I don't know. I think it's one we all need to appreciate a lot of what's going on with it, but at the same time, we can talk openly about, you know, there are some issues with it. It isn't a perfect set. Alright, I think I'm better set to see these comments now. I think everything's coming in. We're gonna just keep going. Try to keep this as unbroken from here. Now, anyways, back to my Masters 25 rant. With Masters 25, I really think that It's not a bad set. I've seen people, some other videos complaining about the EV on the set being only $20 to $30 higher than the box, and in my opinion, that's actually pretty good. And a lot of these videos, at the same time, aren't accounting for things like the random chance. Oh, I love that little proc. Things like the random chance to get certain foils really actually do increase the EVs. Most of the videos I'm watching mention those chances, but then they don't go on and talk about them at all. They don't add that in. They don't do any of it. And then even further, I've seen other people's videos who are going on saying that they want, it's a lot of these Magic be affordable crowd, and I understand where they're coming from, but they would like Magic to come from a place where every pack you're popping more than your $10 you spent. It is basically the best way to sum that up. 2 of those procs in a row. So some of these people I'm seeing are asking that they would like every set to get more than the $10 that, or for, let's talk Masters 25. So you put $10 into your pack in Masters 25. They want to ensure that they walk away with more than $10 on their rares specifically, and would like all rares to be over $10, maybe 1 or 2 floating in that $8 range. And my only thought on that is that's really ridiculous. I'm going to stop myself from cussing. Let's keep this all family friendly. That's really ridiculous. I just don't know if maybe I have different expectations. I have been in the collectible market for a long time. I've professionally worked in the collectible market for quite a while now too, and the thought that you can make your money back on every single pack isn't going to happen. It's just not the way that the market works. And beyond not the way the market works, it's not the way any market works. And I've heard people even respond to it and say, well, you know, we just don't think Magic should be a market. They don't agree with the MTG finance community, as it's called. And to that end, I think, you know, who do you think is holding the community to, or not the community, but who's holding the game together? There's been a lot of points where Wizards had slips, and this is one of those points. I'm not saying that it's a huge slip right now. I know a lot of other people are calling it out some more, and we'll chat on that and some of the other things going on with that here in a second. But I just feel like if you think that Wizards or Pokemon or any of these people should be controlling the market in such a way that it's so accessible that you're making your money back on every pack, you're then counting out for, and I know a lot of people don't like the investors in Magic, but they're your local game stores too. They're your people who are holding these games together. They're the people who are actively making sure that you have a place to play, that you have people to play with, and that you have product in stock. And there was a time before we could all order on the internet, and I mean, I don't know if you guys all remember that, but like, you had to have a game store. If you lived in a town without a game store like I did, I had to drive hours away sometimes to go to my local game stores. And it's great that we have the internet now and we can all get the product, but it also is killing those same local game stores, which are the only place we can then play the game. So I just feel like if you really hate the MTG finance community that much, and you hate the people who are trying to profit on it, then it says to me that you also have issues with your game stores who are, you know, making profit on the game so they can make a living, so they can bring this game to you, and they can continue to do so in a way that they can live off of, because it's not just a hobby for everyone. So that's kind of my little rant on that. And with Magic the Gathering M25, I actually am really excited about it. I think it's not going to be the big set. I mean, it's not $400 box EVs, and we just kind of have to wait and see where some of this goes, in my opinion. But beyond that, I want to bring up a little analogy or comparison, perhaps. I have seen a lot of videos again saying they want $10 back per pack, or they want their box value back, and even more than their box value. And my only thought is, did you people ever play in sports cards? Because seriously, let's talk sports cards for one moment. It's not something I'm going to talk about a lot on this channel. It's not my jam, but it's relevant right now. Right now in sports cards, you can go out and buy boxes that are $80 to $100, sometimes upwards of $200, and have 2, 3, sometimes only 1 pack in them. Yeah, that's right, pack. And you're talking maybe some of these have a handful of cards per pack, but some of them are talking only 1 to 2 cards per pack. And I just... You really bank on sports cards, and there's people who do it all day. The sports cards market is still thriving. There's a baseball rookie right now for, I think it's Ohtani, that's going for like $6,000. And like, yeah, when you buy that box, you take the risk that you're going to completely dud out and lose all your money and only get $10 in value. But you also are taking the gamble that you're going to get the $6,000 card. And that's what we all have to recognize in the collectible market. I don't care if it's a game, I don't care if it's comics, I don't care if it's sports cards. There's a certain level of gamble to it. Now, that especially applies to when we are talking about a trading card game. Because in a trading card game specifically, you are going to have... values based on what the players can make out of them. So if a card's really good, players are going to want it more. I want that straight. Anyways, players are going to want cards more, and it's what blows up the values. In every different game, I don't care what game it is, they all have a way of controlling these values and of trying to make sure that these cards don't get too crazy. Power creep is different in every game, but it exists in every game. So, for instance, in Yu-Gi-Oh!, they're all about the reprints. They love reprinting cards, and it's how they kill value in cards, and it's how they get those cards to be available to everyone. Magic does reprints too, but they also do the standard rotation. And standard rotation gives us a whole other game that we can play, and at the same time, it keeps value of cards in check. So you have to expect these levels, no matter what collectible it is, that they're going to have certain pieces, and then where the gambling aspect comes in, especially in a trading card game. So, like, if you're doing comics, if you want a collectible that's a little more less gamble, I'd say comics. Because comics, there's a gamble to whether it'll go up in price, but you're not gambling on what you're going to get. You know what comic you're going to get. If that's what you're after, maybe comics is the thing for you. And not saying that's bad. I am all about comics. I love my comic collection. But it's something I think we all need to note, that if you are really against the secondary market and the gambling of TCG, where you are running the risk of not pulling anything that you wanted, then maybe you should consider a different thing for your collectible hobby. Maybe you want to consider something that's more consistent in what you buy, like comics, where, yeah, it might die in value. Your $3.99 comic might become worth $1 by the end of the year. That's happened, especially on a lot of big special series. Let's not even talk about things like Convergence. But with collectible card games where you're buying a booster pack, that's in the gamble right there. And that's why there's a lot of great channels out there, like Tolarian Community College always ends his thing saying you should buy singles, and booster packs aren't always the way to go. Booster packs are great if you want the gamble chance and if you want to build your collection fast, but otherwise you have the single market. You don't have to take the gamble, and that's where you then have to accept what the single market is. And if you think that it's so crazy that the singles market jumps so fast, let's talk a little about the comic market for a second. I did a market watch video on this just the other day, and the comic market is really crazy right now. Comics, you've got some that were out this week. Again, Spider-Man hit this week, new one already in the $20 range. It's sold out everywhere. It's something that's just hard to find now, and it's already the way they do their print runs on comics. A lot of people aren't as familiar with. Comics are print to order. So if your local comic store doesn't order enough comics, they won't get more. This all comes from the 90s crash, where they essentially blew up comics. So you guys might have heard about, like, the Death of Superman, some of those. If you guys thought those were worth anything, you're sadly mistaken. Things like the Death of Superman, there were so many prints of that the value on them ultimately died. And because of that, they do limited print runs on comics, and everything is done based on how many orders they get, and then they'll go to second printings and third printings. And that's part of what is causing these comics to blow up in price. But that also means if you wanted to be reading the current Spider-Man comic that just came out, you run the risk of, if you didn't pick it up and you don't have a hold slot, that you're going to be paying somewhere in the range of $20 to $30 for it now. And if you think that singles for card games are collectible, then I don't know what you're expecting. So that all being said, like, the singles in card games is Actually a pretty reasonable market. I have a couple comments, people asking me why I'm chatting so much. That being said, what you guys have tuned into here is my game side chat. I have chosen a topic of the day, and we're doing some building in Fallout 4 while I cover the concept of collectibles as investments. We're going to be chatting about trading cards, and we're going to be chatting about comics and other collectibles and what they mean as an investment. So that's where we are on the topic right now. And I was just leaving off talking about how comics specifically are going crazy right now. If you guys haven't been watching where comics are, it's a very interesting market. It's something that I've done one market watch video on. I'm going to do a couple more, but it's really interesting because it's not what I think anyone was expecting. And the main focus of this, though, is on trading card game singles. And with trading card game singles, we were talking earlier about Modern Masters 25 and people not liking the value they're getting out of it. I think that you are going to get a lot of good value out of these trading card singles if you first count in the foils. But then the other piece of it is you also need to consider that you're getting at least your box value back. Everything I've seen for the EVs on the trading card singles is saying that they are not worth it because you're getting like $20 more than the box value. Sorry, I got distracted with what I was doing in game for a second. You're only getting like maybe $20 more than box value. To me, though, $20 more than box value is still pretty decent. You're making more than box value. Again, we can't stress that enough. Like, you're not losing out on your product here. And I think that all the hate on Modern Masters is a little unfounded. I'm not saying it's the best thing ever. It's not the best Master set ever. A lot of people are calling it Iconic Masters 2.0, and I just don't agree with that. I think that that's not the case. But let's talk about a couple other games that are going on right now and where the single markets are. So if you're into investing in cards, and I'm not saying that you ever should necessarily throw your investments into cards. I'm not recommending that that's where you should be putting your money. I'm not a stockbroker. I don't do anything like that. But I have a lot of money in cards myself. I have a nice collection. I sell cards on the side sometimes, and there's a lot of money for it. And that brings me to talking about one of the channel's favorite games here, and that is Final Fantasy. I don't know if you guys have seen the Final Fantasy market, but they've got a really good market. I think it's a good market for the secondary market on singles. It's, in general, a market where you don't see too many fall downs, but you get a lot of good value still, and it's not crazy. You can get into it. Some of the singles get a little wonky here and there, but you also, with the foils, their foil market is where it's at, because you get some real money on foils in Final Fantasy. Each box typically has a $30 to $50 foil legend, as well as a bunch of $20 to $30 cards. Like, I can on average get 1.5 times to, if not double, my money back when I'm getting my cards. So that's always something to note there. There are some other good ones right now. Let's actually just talk about some of the wonkiness in card printing at the moment, because that was part of what made me want to go on and talk about this. The big response from Wizards today, if you guys haven't seen, is that Hour of Devastation is done printing. Apparently it's not selling well enough. There's some other videos that are covering this more in depth. Some people ranting about it and complaining. It's a year before Hour of Devastation should go off of printing. A little less. It should stop in September if I'm not wrong. But they are done printing it, is my understanding. And part of them being done printing it means that we might see some of these cards like Scarab God spike in price. We also might see some of the lottery cards spike in price. This might be on purpose from Wizards of the Coast, this choice here. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. We'll see if any of the other ones happen. But the other big note from Wizards of the Coast is they did the second print of Unstable. A great set, and it's already gone. If you wanted it on Unstable, you had your chance. It's already said and gone, and you aren't going to be getting any more unstable, is my understanding. They might change that, and they're not the only ones doing this. Some people have covered that Pokemon did the same thing with Ultra Prism. Second print come and gone. My local gaming store got none of it. It is sold out, and prices are starting to skyrocket. They did this with Roaring Skies. They might bring back and kill the market in a little while and release a lot of Roaring Skies, but for the moment, Pokemon Ultra Prism, Sun and Moon Ultra Prism is gone, and if you can get your hands on it, I highly recommend it, because it's not being printed anymore. At least that's what Pokemon's saying. The Crimson Invasion Crisis, if you guys aren't familiar with, they had some real tough time selling Crimson Invasion. Not a lot of people going to pre-releases. I think 2 people showed up at our local pre-release. It was pretty bad. So that all being said, a lot of leagues have dropped off, and I know Pokemon's been in a little bit of a place because of it. So it's, you know, it's all part of the game you play, though, with these trading card games, and we might see prices spike because of it. I know some people are also complaining that Wizards is spending too much time focusing on not the market. I don't know that I agree with that statement. I think that what they're focusing on is also very justified and valid stuff if they want to get more players in. However, it doesn't mean they can ignore the market. It doesn't mean you can ignore what's going on at local game stores. My store is doing really well, but a lot of stores around the town aren't doing as well. I go to about 3 local game stores. They're all doing fine, but I've heard of others that aren't firing FNM anymore. I've heard of others that have given up on Standard Showdown, and the idea that you gave up on Standard Showdown is crazy. So, with all that being said, that's a little bit of my ranting. I want to talk about what collecting and investments actually mean kind of together. So if you guys are collecting to invest, then it means you're putting your money into these cards with the hope that they're going to go up, and you might even be selling these cards off, watching the market for them to drop and selling them. For instance, if you were in with Yu-Gi-Oh! And you were watching the Legendary Kaiba set, you probably, if you were collecting to invest, moved your Ash Blossoms before the set printed and picked up more Ash Blossoms when this new set hit. If you were watching Ghost Ogre was another one of them, Droll and Lockbird, there was a lot that came in this Legendary Kaiba set that shifted the prices. And there's a lot of people who make a lot of money doing this, just watching the prices of these games and moving things around. I'm not talking your high-end investors. I'm not talking the people who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and are selling $7,000 alpha cards. But I'm talking your guys who are doing this as a basic job, making 30, 40K a year, pushing $2 to $10 cards, loving it when they see $20 to $50 cards. There's a lot of them, and they exist in every game, and they really are the ones that help keep you guys going. If you're not the ones buying booster boxes at your local gaming stores, they're the ones selling to you. You guys might be buying from local game stores on their single sites, but local game stores don't put them all on there. You gotta have a couple of big name guys who put everything up on there. But most of the game stores, they keep the majority of their collection in-house, and they only list excess online. So you have all these secondary market people that a lot of you hate, actually, and that's beyond me why the secondary market is so hated. I think it's because sometimes it becomes unaffordable, but again, that's the will of the market. I'm not necessarily here preaching about the tenets of capitalism or anything, but we're playing in a capitalist structure here. All of these games play off them, the investments play off that way, and that's the will of the market. If something jumps, if a card becomes crazy good again, all of a sudden people are going to be able to make money off of it. And I've seen this in every game. And like I said, it's not just collectible or card games that I collect. I do stuff with other stuff, including I have comic collections, and I do some statues and toys and stuff. Now, I never pick up collectibles with the thought that, oh, I'm going to make my money back on this, unless it's something, if I'm playing the market, I'm going to do it with something like, Jace was just unbanned, is very recent. I didn't necessarily do this, but an example would be if I learned right off the bat that Jace is unbanned, I might go see if my local stores had Jace in stock and buy 1 or 2 while they were at that price. Not necessarily with the intention of flipping them for a higher price, but knowing that I'm not going to get them at a lower price and that they're going to go up. That's playing the market. I want to get in. I might not be using Jace in the deck immediately, but do I want to have to pay the new higher price for the card? No. So I'm going to go see if I can't get somebody on that low price still. And no matter what collectible you're into, collectible games especially are volatile. Collectible comics, a little less so, unless characters become less prevalent. they're fine. A lot of first appearances are going to stay up there in value, especially with the way we do short printing these days. So, that all being said, you can also do other things. I know a lot of people who get into statues and stuff, if you can get low number statues, some of them go up, but most of them are actually just good, solid collections that don't lower or go up. So just kind of talking about statues for a hot moment. If you guys have ever messed around with things like comic statues that are like 1 of 3,000, 1 of 2,500, often they don't go down in price too much. I've seen sometimes 20% drops, sometimes as much as 20%, 25% rises, but rarely do they actually go down or up. So, just something to keep in mind. If you are looking to put your money into collectibles, there are a couple that are more stable than others. Comics isn't very stable because you have to hit the ones and you have to know they're going to go up. I recommend getting into comics if you want to read comics, not because you want to invest in it. Way too many people did that back in the 90s and they lost out on it. I have people that I constantly still see bringing in boxes and boxes of comics to our local stores trying to sell them, and they can only be offered $10, $20 for the entire long box of comics because it has old 90s comics in it that nobody wants. And collectible card games, I also wouldn't recommend trying to get into them to make money. I would get into collectible card games because you want to play the game. And if you can make some money on the side, if you can turn around and turn that card game into something where you're going to be able to maybe pay for the hobby, maybe not make all your money on it, maybe not even make rent on it, but if you can pay for your hobby, that's a good thing you can do, and you're then going to be participating in that secondary market. So it's definitely something that you should consider when you're looking into these things. Is don't get into one that you're not actually into and you're not going to use. If you have the money and you really want to sink in, investing in old school Magic's never a bad idea. Investing in some of those things, there's other channels that completely cover it. They can be strong investments. But if you want to invest in the current stuff and expect it to go up, that is taking some risks. There's ways you can play that market, and I'm not really here to talk about that today, but you can't expect that you are going to get the same amount of money and the same amount of value for every pack you buy. So if you spend $10 on a Modern Masters 25 pack and you only get a $5 card or even a $1 rare, that's just what you need to deal with. It's how it goes. You might also pull the foil Jace and get a $300 card, and there you go. That is part of the gambling of collectible markets. So that's kind of my rant. I've seen a lot of other people out there that are upset with a lot of these games, that are not liking the direction some of these are heading, and that's their prerogative. I think that the games are all still looking pretty strong. In fact, watching the markets from them, I think that the markets might be balancing out for the first time in a while. Some of them were getting a little wonky, and I think the card games are balancing out right at the time that I'm seeing the comic market just go all crazy. Now, I do want to just finish up with a couple other little notes. Not everything's a collectible. There's some things I really worry about. I see a lot of people putting money into, and maybe there's some people out there that want to comment and prove me wrong on this, but the big one for me is I see so many people investing now in pop vinyls, and I didn't expect to talk about pop vinyls when I started this, but let's take a moment and talk about this. I think pop vinyls are a very bad investment. I think pop vinyls are the baby beanies of the future. People are going to try to sell those collections off in mass, and they're going to find that nobody wants them. I have a small collection of pop vinyls myself, but it's because I like the characters I've collected and I have no intention of necessarily getting rid of them. If you really got into pop vinyls with the expectation that it was going to go up in value, it was going to be something that you were going to be seeing more of, and you were going to be selling off in the future, paying your kids college tuitions or whatever you told yourself. I just hope that I'm wrong, because I don't see it happening. I see it being Beanie Babies. And speaking of Beanie Babies, I know a lot of videos out there. I've seen some that are like, there's these $3,000 Beanie Babies, look at how much they're going for. It's BS for the most part. there are some valuable ones, but a lot of these are using eBay listings that are not sold listings. If you go look at sold prices on Beanie Babies, they don't move. I can list something all day and say that I want $3,000 for it. It doesn't mean it's worth that much. It's a classic issue with Pokemon. I deal with old school Pokemon cards all the time. I've told you guys I want to do some market watches on those, and it's something we're going to be seeing in the future here. But it doesn't mean that every old school card is worth something. And the bane of my Pokemon collecting existence is first edition Machamp. It was a promotional card, came in a sealed package. You see it everywhere, and it's worth like $1. Sometimes $2. I've seen sometimes it sells for upwards of $5. So it's not worth anything. Like, if you can get $5 for it, you're making money. My local store sells them all day at $1 each, and there's tons of them there. Everybody has that first edition Machamp. If you have it and you thought you were sitting on a bunch of money, I'm so sorry to inform you that you're wrong. But that doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of great old cards. Old Charizards, if they're Shadowless or first edition especially, go for some good money. Blastoise and Venusaurs and Mewtwo's and Alakazams. I mean, it's not huge dollars. We're not talking... I know some people think every Charizard is worth hundreds of dollars, and it's not. Charizards go for $40 to $50 if it's just a basic one, not first edition, not Shadowless. In good condition. If it's in more played condition, I've seen them as low as like 20 for not damaged, but like moderate played. So it's all about, you know, knowing your market and watching it. And if you were sitting on a bunch of old school Pokemon cards, for instance, let's go there. Might be time to go look into them. Take them to an actual store. See what they'll give you. It'll give you an idea of where your collection actually stands. Understand that most stores buy at about 25% to 50%. Sometimes 50% is like a buy list item typically. 25% is your average. 30% for some other stores. My local store does 30, goes up to 50% for buy lists and foils and stuff. Well, that all being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I built some stuff in my town, got a little progress done, but don't really have much more to rant about. Just kind of wanted to tune in today, play a little video games, and chat with you all about what is going on in the collectibles markets and what it means to invest in collectibles. And I had a couple of comments in there. I think people who are actually more excited to see the fallout than hear me chatting. But if you guys see this after the live broadcast is uploaded on the channel and you want to talk more about this, let me know. I'm going to do some more of these fireside chats. I don't know if they'll... Or fireside chats. I'm not FDR. Game side chats. These are my game side chats. I'm going to do some more of these, and if we don't have a lot of participation in the live ones, what I'll probably end up doing is playing on here, chatting it out, and then I'll edit them up before I put them on. I'm doing a lot of live videos this week, but I'm going to go back to using a lot of my video editors in the next week. I'm just kind of doing it to get the extra content out and get these giveaways out. With all that being said, I am Saccora with Pop Culture Theory, and I will catch you all next time.